So ladies, gentlemen, fellow Bat family out there, welcome back to a brand new video on the Batman Part 2. So since we had a good time talking about the Batman Part 2 last weekend, we're back again with another video where I want to talk about some of the top things that excite me most. Kind of looking forward to most, if you will. It's obvious to say that there is a ton of things to look forward to with the potential that this second film has. So if you couldn't tell already by the video length, I'm gonna ramble about a few of those in particular. Obviously, there is too many to mention at the end of the day, but I would love to hear your thoughts on my thoughts. What are your most anticipated aspects of Part 2 and why? And maybe let me know just how you would like to see those things go down. So if you're brand new here and you love Batman, you're absolutely in the right place. Consider subscribing. YouTube tells me that around 42% of you watching right now on a regular basis, by the way, aren't subscribed to the channel. So make sure you do so you don't miss out on any future Batman videos like this, especially the ones where we're gonna go into frickin' overdrive when more news comes out for Part 2. Now, first up, before getting into perhaps one that is more obvious or like what most people have put right at the top of their list, and that is, for me at least, just getting back into the feel of this world again. I know that sounds obvious, but just stick with me here. One of my favorite things about the Batverse that Matt Reeves created is the world itself that we get to see. And I think what I love most about Matt Reeves' Gotham is, despite the fact that, as Matt Reeves puts it, it's all translated so, Gotham feels like a place in our world, similar to kind of what we know Nolan's desire was with his Dark Knight trilogy. But the way Matt Reeves executed this vision, it felt so comic bookly Gotham that it was just incredible. Like, not knocking on Nolan there, as clearly those movies hold a special place in my Batman heart, but the city of Gotham was a character in the Batman so much more than I ever felt that it was in the Dark Knight trilogy. And I think that authentic feeling Batman essence that I felt through the screen at practically any given moment is also the very thing that I believe convinces people as though this world could even go all out fantastical. Like, shout out to the Merge Bros out there. Because despite its intention to feel like a place in our world, Matt Reeves created something so tangible and yet, from the pages of the comic books, that I think it's basically extraordinary that you can have a grounded in our reality Batman while also achieving a more comic book feel than what we've seen before when it comes to something that's more realistic. Now, not only is there the production design, but there's the exquisite cinematography that was just a match made in heaven, which allowed Matt Reeves to achieve his vision. Part 2 brings us a new production designer from Andor's Luke Hull, who is already, as some of you may already know, been very busy casing out Glasgow and Liverpool for the Batman Part 2, especially if you look at his Instagram. And we also have a new cinematographer coming our way, who at the time of making this video hasn't been announced, but as I've gone over in my previous The Batman 2 discussion series video, I'm not really concerned about that impacting the incredible Gotham and feel of the movie that we saw in the first one. Because, again, don't get me wrong, Greg Fraser, amazing, and I would love for him to come back for Part 2, but he's pretty wrapped up with those Beatles movies. Now, there's so many talented people out there that I've seen people suggest, from Rob Hardy, Darius Konji, Emmanuel Lubezki, Lawrence Sher, to, of course, the sacred Roger Deakins. But there is just, again, so many talented cinematographers that I just know it will still honor the first movie's vision and have potential to even build upon it even more. Which kind of brings me to the next part of this video, very, very much so related to the first thing I was talking about, and that is winter in Gotham City, people. Say it with me. Winter in Gotham City. Now, given that I just rambled about getting back into the feel of this world again, and now you combine that with us likely having a winter vibe to the city in part 2, like, should I just end the video there? Like, need I say any more? Now, all while this isn't exactly confirmed in the sense that we haven't had Matt Reeves come out and say, oh yeah, by the way, like, this is gonna literally be in the thick of winter. Gotham is going to be entrenched in all of this snow here, there, and everywhere. But what I will say is there's more than enough out there to point out that this is extremely obvious that they're gonna do something with that type of setting. So, there's Matt Reeves saying previously, when talking about the end of the Penguin, that the story plays out over the next weeks that take you towards the end of the year. We don't play Christmas or New Year's, but we're getting there. So this made a lot of us feel pretty damn confident that with The Batman Part 2, which as we already know, picks up relatively quickly after the finale of The Penguin, you know, it seems kind of obvious that's going to be in December. And then to top this off, ladies and gentlemen, we may have had Renzi Feliz, who played Vic in The Penguin, let something slip when talking to comicbook.com. So we knew that what we were doing was leading into Batman 2. We know that he wanted to set Batman 2 in the snow, so we started gearing our way towards that in The Penguin, so that by the time they start that, it's kind of full on. Now, if you couple this in with how towards the final episodes of the Penguin series, as certain time and events transpired, we even had shots of snow landing on like the Falcone estate. We had like snow landing on the rooftops of Gotham City. It wasn't full on, but it was getting there, which matches up to what Renzi Feliz was basically saying and how they knew in Batman 2 they wanted to do that. So, ladies and gentlemen, yes, like, I mean, I will hold my hands up if I'm wrong, but like this seems pretty obvious that the Batman Part 2 will be winter in Gotham. And not only that, I think maybe the movie literally takes place over the span of a week again, starting perhaps on the evening of Christmas Day and taking us right into New Year's Day. So I know, quite a long ramble about the feel of Gotham with these first two biggest things that I'm looking forward to, if you will, and the vibe of it, but my God, is there just so much to look forward to there with Part 2. Now, next up, new Rogues Gallery villain. Safe to say, like, you know, one of the most anticipated things that we're looking forward to. One of my most asked questions for the Batman 2 for years and years now, like even being asked this before the movie came out, is just who would I want to be the next Batman villain? And the interesting thing here is, and I've never intended this to sound like a cop-out, but honestly, despite also being incredibly excited for the next big Rogues Gallery villain to be adapted, also at the same time of making this video, I wanted to gauge what you guys are most excited about when it comes to Part 2, and I found a response with a similar sentiment to mine here from Adam Leary 6750, saying, getting to see Matt Reeves bring another Rogues Gallery character to life. What he's done so far with the Riddler and the Penguin has been masterwork, and I can't wait to see what he's going to do with the villain of Part 2. Hopefully, there are multiple. So, just in case you haven't got it yet, like, he didn't mention any specific villain. And with me, I'm basically saying that whoever Matt Reeves chooses more or less excites me at a near enough the same level kind of thing. And I know this may sound mega glazy, but it is just true for me. And like, if you're just as passionate about this universe, like Matt Reeves as a filmmaker and a writer, alongside his co-writer Mattson Tomlin, who's also very talented, then you might already understand the angle I'm coming from here, in that whoever he chooses to adapt out of the incredible lineup of different Batman villains, both old and new in the comics, you just know that he will have decided to do so because it's a story that is worth telling. One that connected with him. Like, do you really think he would have chosen one, like, even if it's not your preference, let's say, right out the gate here, and he was gonna, like, risk the whole movie's, like, enterprise of doing this over a villain that's just gonna be shite? No. And that right there If you're starting to connect that, that's the essence of what I'm on about. Like, you just know he will do a good job with kind of whoever it is. And I think that's an incredibly rare thing where you may have a preference over Batman villains. I think we all do, right? As to who is your favorite. Maybe you've been dead set at who you would place over others for a contender for Part 2's villain. And yet, just knowing that whoever Matt Reeves chooses would likely elevate that character's presence in your mind to such an extent that hopefully by the end of the movie, you wouldn't have wanted to see anyone else for that Part 2 villain spot. So yeah, naturally, I am so intrigued about this. Like, this is currently what us all as Batman fans are absolutely dying to see or hear any kind of news about, despite me saying I'd be pretty damn game with whoever is chosen. I just think what fuels this excitement even more is just hearing what Matt Reeves has said so far, which are breadcrumbs, but there is still stuff there, some ingredients we can start to mix together. So just to briefly recap some of that, he says, I never wanted to lose Rob at the center of these stories. And so that is really what we set our aim on. And so picking the right villain that digs into what that does, which sort of goes into his past and his life, that was what drove that discussion. And I won't tell you where we ended up, but we're super excited about it. And we'll say it's never really been done in a movie before. So we're excited. So we know this villain is the kind of Batman villain out of his rogues gallery, which also goes into his past and his life. Batman has only been active for just under 2 years in these movies. 1 year, 6 months. He's in year 2 at the beginning, in the first film. And we know that it takes place relatively a quick time after the Penguin series. So again, he's still very early on. So what I'm trying to say here is, if this truly goes into his past, this means his life as Bruce Wayne before Batman. And just knowing how Matt Reeves approached tackling the rogues gallery villains, if you will, of the first movie, how can we take what he looks for there in a villain and translate that to what he could seek for the sequel villain? And again, this falls under the whole exciting thing, because it's like, this kind of discussion right here, right now, is what is making me so excited for Part 2. You know, I think about aspects like how they said in the behind the scenes that you're not supposed to reject the Riddler outright. The Riddler's the Riddler because of a lot of horrible things that happened prior to that. And we know that Matt Reeves uses this as a launching point for a lot of his characters. Transformative moments, or traumatic as well, for the Penguin, Riddler, Bruce Wayne alike, where they all diverge down different paths. It's just that Bruce Wayne's trauma led him to doing good with that pain. The Riddler does something different, as do others. So how did Matt Reeves find his in there with this villain for Part 2? There are tons and tons of candidates, that is for sure. You know, Matt Reeves also passionately speaks about how the Riddler is someone whose great power was to do with patterns. And it's like, well, yeah, that's the Riddler, but what's the next Rogues Gallery villain's great power equivalent here? And when you go down that line of thinking, you only get more excited, because it's like, you know, it kind of feels to me that Part 2 will only hone in on the psychoanalytical lens of Bruce Wayne even more. And the villain themselves could embody that dissection with Bruce Wayne and Batman, as in that might be their power. And there's multiple villains that appeal there too, like Hugo Strange, maybe a bit of Jonathan Crane, Mad Hatter, if you want to dabble ideas like that in, or maybe a combination. We've talked about this quite a bit. Hugo Strange merged that psychological warfare approach with the instrument of Tommy Elliott's Hush, the son of Edward Elliot. Maybe, and this is why there's so much added fuel to the fire of speculation when it comes back to how Part 2 could focus more on Bruce Wayne, looking into the past of the Waynes and the Arkhams. I mean, Bruce learned things from the Riddler that he seemingly had no idea about. Again, he had no idea that his mother spent time in Gotham Asylum and was even recorded trying to flee. He had no idea that there was a cover-up of the deaths of Martha's parents, labeled as accidental, when really it appeared to be a murder-suicide. But the Riddler stated that when Martha was just a child, the Arkhams used their power and money to cover it all up. that makes me think, okay, well, who exactly in the Arkham family covered that up if it wasn't Martha, given she was just a child at the time? Could they be someone we should be thinking about here? What if not only was there a cover-up that labeled it as an accident, but what if the seemingly real cause of death, being labeled as murder-suicide, wasn't even what happened, and it was really a murder framed to look like a murder-suicide? If you're still with me there. Like, it's these kinds of things that I think of when your boy Matt Reeves says there's seeds in the first movie that link to this whole plot of part 2. And, you go further. It's like, did Martha know about the truth of that or suspect it? Could this be one of the contributing factors as to why she was locked away in Gotham Asylum? We know that it's going to take Bruce to places he couldn't have even anticipated in the first film. And as you can tell, pondering things like this gets me really, really excited. Not that I'm pinning any hopes on any of my theories, by the way. That's a big thing that I think people do, to the point of where if something doesn't happen, they're upset about it or whatever. It's not that. It's just there is a lot that they can do here. And swimming in the pool of possibilities there is just so interesting. And even just given how Matt Reeves also said that part 2 is going to dig into the epic story about deeper corruption, and it goes into places that he couldn't anticipate in the first one. The seeds of where this goes are all in the first movie, and it expands in a way that will show you aspects of the character that you never got to see. The ideas of what we were getting into and what we get into in the Batman discussion series are some seeds in the first movie that could absolutely apply to Bruce Wayne being leaned into more in the sequel, which we can all but kind of practically guarantee is that kind of through line and lens and focus of, part 2. I could ramble about this one for ages, but I'm, very, very, very excited for whoever this villain will be, but it's also the excitement about reading between the lines here. I kind of need to shut up now because I've been going on about this one for a while, which brings me to that next point. Even though we've encompassed this topic quite a bit already, but yes, one of the biggest things I'm excited for is none other than to see more Bruce Wayne in this iteration. Now, one thing I loved about the first movie is how much Matt Reeves gave us a Batman movie. Like, dude was basically in the Batman suit the entire time. Kind of, right? And actually, it's interesting. One of the criticisms for some was that we didn't get much Bruce Wayne, which, while I can understand if you kind of had desire to see more of that, however, that was literally the intention, given where the character of Bruce Wayne / Batman is at this point of his life, only 1 year, 6 months into, the Batman or the Gotham criminological experiment. Now, Matt Reeves has said, I knew the way the movie ended. It was leaving on a precipice, and also the way events sort of happened within the show. That there is an exploration to be had. And one of the explorations for me was to do something that pushes even further into the character of Bruce Wayne, because the first story is so much about the Batman. So, it feels very obvious where they're kind of going in part 2. And also, they've just talked about this in depth with how, for Bruce at the time period of like the first film before the ending, in like a very blunt way of describing it, it was said that the options for him were kind of death or being Batman. Like here, he might learn that, sure, like being Batman, having this shadow self elevates him and it's transformative to him, but maybe he can do so much more than he thought he could do, utilizing both sides of himself. So now Batman is going to be kind of put in a position with the plot of this film where Bruce is going to be put onto the screen a lot more for one reason or another. That's just bloody fascinating to me to think about, and yes, exciting. So in the Batman Part 2, I really wouldn't actually be surprised if we go the kind of same approach, like a very point of view driven story, even literally lens-wise, but the other way around of the character. So more Bruce Wayne scenes and less Batman in the suit scenes in the sequel. And I know that sounds off-putting at the start for some of you, because sure, perhaps you would want to see more Bruce Wayne, but not at the sacrifice of any Batsuit time. But if you think about it, and what seems to be coming our way, it would make sense that given the sequel pushes even further into the character of Bruce Wayne, this is going to propel the character of Bruce into complete and utter unfamiliar territory. Like maybe he needs to do things as his public self rather than his shadow self in order to get the answers he desires. Like Matt Reeves said that Batman is already on another case and it's another detective-driven mystery again. Bruce having to uncomfortably utilize that side of himself that has been neglected for years is something that will undoubtedly dominate a lot more screen time, but in my opinion, for all the right reasons. Now, that's not to say we're not going to get Batsuit scenes, because obviously this is a Batman movie. It's called The Batman Part 2 for crying out loud, but a big part of Batman is the duality of the character, and given where the character was at in the first movie, basically only living and breathing the Batman suit, sleep, going out as Batman again, repeat. The next song on the playlist to explore in the sequel is indeed Bruce Wayne. And again, this is so exciting because I think Robert Pattinson's going to excel here, and like even the nuggets we got of the character in the first film were pretty rich. Like even if so early in gestation of the character's overall arc in the trilogy, just from the beginning of the movie with his frustration with Alfred, to then learning the truth from the Riddler, leading to this almost shriveled version of the character who went to see Carmine Falcone, and you kind of see that he's stripped of his suit and laid bare, and you kind of get this mirror held up of being transported back in time, wearing the vulnerability of his pain on his sleeve without this transformative mask. To then, of course, another great scene later on with Alfred in the hospital, where once again you see him very presently carrying the pain of his parents' death, but also experiencing this introspection about what he values most. This is just like, if you thought those scenes were good, imagine how much more you could get in part 2. And also what would be very exciting is the idea of this new Batman villain making it harder for Bruce to even be Batman. There's just so much natural exploration to be had after having this side of the character so very dormant in the first film. Now, up next is really just kind of related once again, and it's simply characters even beyond this, even beyond the Rogues Gallery villain. As we've talked about before, there's going to be some new characters. Absolutely, the most popular one is the replacement for the District Attorney of Gotham City, and there is no one else better to fill that spot other than Harvey Dent. Now, I've gone on at length about how I feel like he can be really, really relevant to the future of the Batverse, beyond even the plot of The Batman Part 2, where he's done in a way that isn't just like, oh, he's introduced in the second movie to be Two-Face by the end of it, but rather playing into the plot threads lingering from the end of The Penguin, his desire to make some friends in City Hall, as we know, and how Harvey could oppose that alongside Bella Real's Anti-Corruption Commission, and so on and so forth. If you want to know more about that, boy, do I have the perfect video for you, somewhere appearing here on screen. Check it out maybe after this video. There are quite a few others, whether that's from the side of who Bruce Wayne or Batman might interact with. I know a lot of people have actually mentioned, what if we could see a Lucius Fox in this iteration? What about Vicky Vale, which I actually can really see happening more with Bruce Wayne, especially if maybe Selina Kyle has less screen time, if at all, in this movie. Perhaps Jim Gordon's family. That's been a top one of mine, actually, such as Barbara, his daughter, which was actually mentioned in the script in a deleted scene. He pretended to be on the phone to Barbara when Batman rang him when they were trying to crack the Riddler's cipher at the GCPD. So, okay, could we actually see Barbara in the next one? And maybe even other characters from the GCPD side of things. You could insert character's name here when it comes to that. Next up, one of the biggest things that I'm most looking forward to, another obvious one, but it is the detective-driven mystery of this all. We know that this is not like what you'd expect from a typical cinematic universe superhero movie where, I'm not trying to sound reductive, but, some might lean into spectacle or sacrifice some other things for spectacle and action. Not that you're not going to get that in the Batman, but this is a certain flavor and type of Batman. And Matt Reeves, again, has doubled down saying this is another mystery, detective-driven story. And this is just one of the biggest things I'm looking forward to most, because I love that aspect of the character and how that is most leaned upon in this version. I know people desire to not only see more of this, but, you know, maybe a bit more of a share of action, in addition to what is kind of viewed as more of a slow burn structure of storytelling with just following a mystery. But I think that's what this iteration of Batman is. And I'm a sucker for a good mystery story. Like, it's so compelling and keeps you enticed throughout. Obviously, they can disappoint when they don't pay off, but I think there's little chance of that happening. I mean, one can hope anyway. But yeah, mystery, doubling down on Robert Pattinson's Batman being on a detective-driven story, even if that means another kind of slow burn story where it might lead to a bunch of people out there saying, oh, it's boring, it's boring. It's like, well, okay, like, you know, everyone has their opinion, but not for me, it isn't. Now, up next, guys, one of the biggest things I am looking forward to, and, you know, part of me wishes I said this at the beginning, is the intro to the Batman Part 2. Now, this is a high bar. This is a high bar because the intro, the first movie's intro, it is just so good. I will never forget being at my screener in London for the Batman. And obviously, I was really looking forward to the movie. But I just don't quite think that at the time I thought we were getting that intro with the whole monologue. The beginning of the movie, the rain, you know, Thursday, October 31st. The way you can depict fear of the Batman into the criminals with that robbery that was happening. It's just, you know, the multiple, you know, perspectives, people looking into the shadows. It's just all of it. The look of the city. Like, you know, I know that you know how good that was. Now think of Part 2. Now, again, it's a very high bar, and I think, you know, who knows what it could be like. I think it will be quite different. Maybe one that reflects where Batman's at after his monologue at the ending. So, you know, maybe there could be a scene of where he saves people, and it kind of contrasts how that person he saved at the train station fight scene who ran away from Batman actually looks at him like, you know what, maybe I'm not scared of you. You just saved me. And they say thank you. I don't know. I'm not trying to get too cheesy here. And I absolutely don't want them to be, I wouldn't want Matt Reeves to just absolutely contrast the vibe of Batman that he did in the first movie's intro. Because I still think, even though Bruce Wayne's had this growth, yes, he can be a symbol of hope for the people of Gotham, but he should still absolutely be a symbol of fear to the criminal element. And that should be that should not be lost. I don't know what could really top the first movie's one, but man, am I here to see what Matt Reeves is gonna do with the second one. And, you know, what they could maybe do with the score there. Which brings me to my next most anticipated thing, ladies and gentlemen, the score of the Batman Part 2. Now, Michael Giacchino, Can't Fight City Halloween, Funeral and Far Between, Highway to the Anger Zone, Bat in the Rafters, it just all I could gush and gush and gush and gush over this all day. If you're not vibing me right now and you're still watching at this part of the video, trust me, go to Spotify, Apple, whatever you have, YouTube, whatever it is, and listen to it and just close your eyes for a second. You will be transported back into hype mode. I would be hard pressed to believe that you wouldn't be. And now I'm thinking about Part 2. Now, obviously, they'll use similar scores in Part 2, like Bruce's theme and stuff like that. But there's going to be some new stuff. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if there's like a modification of Can't Fight City Halloween, but like Christmas Day and how that starts. Is it going to be Michael Giacchino? We don't quite know. Michael Giacchino has said in 2024 that you kind of hope for the best, and the people that I'm working with are people that I've worked with a long time. So people tend to, like, we all work it out and we all figure out our schedules, and everyone is always like, don't worry about it. We'll deal with it. When it comes up, we'll make it work. I've had multiple studios really go out of their way to help me make sure my schedules are working for them in order to be able to do what I need to do. So that's really nice to have that kind of relationship with very various studios and the various filmmakers. Without that, I wouldn't be able to do it. Having said that, nothing is guaranteed. We know that his son, and like, what kind of family is this, man? It's just a family of freaking legends. His son, Mick Giacchino, did the score for The Penguin. Now, I don't know if this means that he might end up doing it instead, because that, you know, the Penguin score was great. I would love Michael Giacchino to come back. I think it would be beautiful if he did like a collaboration with his son, a bit of a blend of work there. But either way, the score of the second film, I'm such a huge fan of the first film's score, and like, how could that not be near the top of my list? And then up next, another obvious one, but the action sequences. So there is no way they don't also try and give us some incredible Batman action scenes in the movie, in addition to everything else they're striving to do with the mystery story. Now, Reeves has already said that he and Matt Tomlin are in gear for pushing things farther in part 2. So I think with the Batman, with the Batmobile chase scene, was just so fantastic. You've heard me go on about the score, Highway to the Anger Zone. It was just so nuts. And again, go to your Spotify and listen to it, and then imagine it, something mirroring that, but pushed further in part 2. And then imagine if it was on the Bat Cycle instead, which I said in last week's video. Maybe that won't happen. Maybe we could have the Batmobile again. Maybe we could have both. Maybe, I don't know. But I just, you know, they're going to try and go crazy with that. So clearly, I'm really looking forward to another vehicle kind of adjacent action scene. And I think they're going to strive to do something pretty unique with like hand-to-hand combat as well. I feel like they really did do that. Like, there's the train station fight scene, but then there's the stuff at the end with the rafters, like sliding down the pole, like Adam West Batman style kind of thing. And just like the very, very physical choreography, like where you really feel the weight of every kind of punch that Pattinson's Batman does. It's going to be so interesting, and it is very exciting to me to see what kind of new heights they're going to aim for there. We've talked about how on the channel we'd like to see some stealth. That would be amazing. So when you know the cooks are in the kitchen right now with how to pull off whatever they're planning to do in the Batman Part 2, and you already know that you're in good hands, but it's like, yeah, of course, this is one of the most anticipated things for me. Now, I know I've been rambling a lot at this point, and I'm sure some of you are probably like, well, Boba, what about a new suit? A new suit, you know, isn't that one of your most anticipated things? But I honestly think that we've become too accustomed to expecting a brand new altered suit for a new installment in a set of movies like this, where in reality, it's totally possible that it kind of stays the same. So I'm not ruling it out, but it's just also not one of the things I would necessarily put on this list, because I loved the suit in the first film. I'm mostly not expecting a brand new suit, maybe at most the most subtlest change, but even then, man, I don't know. But as you can tell, ladies and gentlemen, I am very excited for part 2, and I hope that I enthused you with hype for the Batman Part 2 in a time where obviously we are just kind of waiting for the Batman Part 2 news, and I know it's hard to gain hype and excitement, but that is what I'm here for. Share with me your own passions, your own things you're looking forward to, the things that most excite you. Did anything I say kind of reawaken something and make you think like, holy crap, like, damn, I know we shouldn't get ceiling high expectations, but what you said there, like, I'm pretty damn excited for that. Let me know down in the comments below. But if you've made it to this point of the video, guys, you know what I'm going to ask? If you could take 2 seconds of your time, since you are still watching after all, to maybe like the video, hype it. It really does help out the channel. It helps me grow. It helps me carry on doing what I do here. Consider subscribing, of course, for more videos like this, and even more interesting ones when we actually have some tangible news to bite down on, with casting soon and stuff like that, hopefully. But until next time, guys, I'm gonna love you and leave you. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you, Bat Family, in the next video. Goodbye.